Okay. So it's currently 12:34 and I've been discussing with the most powerful, most reliable search engine ever created, at least today, ChatGPT, and discussing how Turkey could play more than just a literal allied role, but more so a symbolic one, actually further enhancing not only the morality as discussed before within the Axis powers, but from without, especially within the Soviet Union. People often undermine and forget that the Azaris, modern day Azerbaijanis, they were mostly the ones pushed forward to the front lines by the Soviets, for which 600,000 soldiers died. Now, let's just say that Turkey, right? They join and they're able to, because you are the same ethno-linguistic group, and Turkey joined the Axis, the one who's who's unilaterally the only one amongst you who's formed a language, the Turkish ones, Muslim Turks, right? Mind you, the Chechens, the Tatars, uh, the Azeris, and all the other Uzbeks, Tajikis, Uzbekis, whatever you are united, right? By language, but more than anything, your ethnicity, your culture, and your religion. These people are religious, right? They're Islamic, and Islam has a huge brotherhood, especially in the face of oppression, i.e. the Soviets. We don't talk about the gulags and 10,000. Now, besides the literal, full-fledged approach on paper during, mapping or animating, whatever, Turkey and Germany would go, but as they're advancing into the USSR, Azerbaijan defects. Now, modern day, there is no greater ally, I feel, to Azerbaijan than Turkey, and then Turkey to Azerbaijan. Now, their roles as allies could maybe, I'll give the benefit of the doubt for argument's sake, exaggerated on my part for how their relationship was back then. However, one thing is for clear: they live and can live alongside each other, and that is a foregone conclusion, right? Even today, I feel like, Armenians out of the way, whatever. Totally ignoring the genocide that's going on. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah grant everyone peace there, and let everyone live in peace there, right? And even today, right, that aside, Azerbaijan and Turkey uniting under one banner is not something far-fetched at all. At all, if we think about it geopolitically. Now, that aside, right, back then, specifically, almost 80 years or so back then? More than that, actually. During the time of Ataturk or whatever, Germany, Hitler really admired his radicalization towards the West, whatever. And, Turkey joining, whatever, blah, 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 foregone conclusion. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is that the Turks would literally give the Bolsheviks, the communists, that reverse libbity-dub Bolshevik revolution. They'd give them essentially, right, in essence, a taste of their own medicine, this time from within the south, i.e. Central Asia, right? The Tatar SSR, the Uzbek SSR, the Tajiki SSR, the Chechnya SSR, right? Everyone under the USSR banner in the Central Asia, they would have a feel of revolution returning. Yes, on a small scale, the Soviets had revolutions pretty much everywhere, but again, there were like ants popping out from all directions. But when you have a hive, this time of bees, right? Because, you give those ants a bit of funding and from external, access, Germany and Italy and everyone within the Axis, even Japan, totally isn't funding this undercover, whatever. Now you give those ants wings, right? Metaphorically speaking, of course, and now you have a horde of bees sticking at your face. Yeah, that's not something you can just put into gulags, and even if you could, given the superpower you are, that will leak. The Germans will use that. And now they have a literal incentive, not only with themselves because they are allied with Turkey, but the Turkish people. You don't even have to tell the Turkish people as a government. You don't even have to. They won't be sitting and laying dormant. They themselves will arm themselves if they're figuring out the atrocities being committed to their own brothers and sisters across the Caspian Sea. They're not going to sit idle, not even the women or children, let alone the soldiers, right? And men. And I feel that that would be kind of a brotherhood formulated and carried out even by Hitler, giving his population that, given how radical they are, of course, and extreme. Such the West, too. The West, even, maybe not the Americans, yeah, public, maybe not. Public would see this disaster fest and, Americans, Germany, given the radio technology, they could propagate this and they were very influential. They could leak this into the American public. And if the Americans want to stop fascist expansion and they want to use a propaganda as they did in World War II to get into war and support the Soviets, if the Turkish and German alliance revealed these atrocities to the American public, there is no way under the fundamental foundation at which the country we live in resides and was built upon. Yeah, I don't think that the war would break out. I don't think even the American soldiers would be okay with that, no matter the pay. So, in essence, this would be a whole nother propaganda factor, not only for the fascists, the Axis, but also for the Allies. I mean, Japan would be having the time of their life. The only thing I see the Americans joining is if Japan pulls the same thing, shenanigans on Pearl Harbor. For argument's sake, let's say they do. At the same time, I feel the Americans seeing the Soviets and seeing how they kind of get torn apart, like piece by piece, and what they're doing to people, they would third party them, as we do today. Like, even in animated maps, hypotheticals, we don't, in essence, consider the Soviets part of the blue team, which are the Allies, France, Britain, America, and we differentiate them as we differentiate the blacks, the Reich, the Axis from the blues, the Allies, whatever the case is. We differentiate the communists as the third party, right? They only joined the war because they were attacked relentlessly by the Germans up to an extent. Of course, we all know what happened from there. But anyway speaking, Turkey plays a huge role, I think, in a hypothesize, had they joined the side of the Germans in World War II, alongside the incentives they would have to continue their expansion, to liberate their brothers and sisters, and quite frankly, to genuinely, literally liberate them from the tyranny of the Soviets, communists.